Okay, we're starting our webinar. We have recording in progress. And this is our noon webinar on how to apply for Grit City trees and what to know about trees, and to encourage you to put in an application. We have a presentation today with Lisa Kinney, and Ryan Hebert will be helping out. Both are from the Urban Forestry Program. Lisa's the Community Tree Program Coordinator, as you can see on the screen. And I'm Janda. I'm the coordinator at the EnviroHouse, which is behind me. The EnviroHouse is now open for public visitors Thursday through Sunday from 11 to 5. I'm working from home on Wednesdays. And we'll give this a couple more minutes to let folks get in and populate. I will let Lisa introduce herself while we're waiting. And I am going to put a note here in the chat. If you have questions, if you can use the chat instead of the Q&A, everybody can see your question and the answers. And then you can save those at the end or as you're going along, because there will be links that we put in. There are also resources that will be in the presentation that you can see. And then that way we can address your questions as we're going through. There is a little arrow. If you look at the chat, if you open that, the menu bar at the bottom of your screen, it has the Q&A and polls chat feature. So if you open the chat, there's a little arrow that shows whether it's to everyone or just to the panelists and the host. So if you change that drop-down arrow to everyone, then you can all see the questions and the answers. So with that, I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself. And Brian, I don't know if you're going to pop on and do an introduction or if you're just kind of staying in the background, but there's Ryan. So you guys can introduce and then I will start it when we get going here.
Sounds good. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lisa Kinney. I have this title that's on the slide here, but I coordinate the city's tree incentive programs and foster and build community partnerships with the community groups and our urban forestry team. Ryan, I can introduce you, or if you want to introduce yourself too, feel free to go for it.
Yeah, I can just pop in quick. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. I'm an urban forestry analyst on the team with Lisa. And today I'll just be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, put them in there and I'll do my best to answer them while Lisa is presenting.
Excellent.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started so we don't have too much drag time here at the beginning and hope that we get some more people in as we're going through. Okay?
Perfect. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today to hear about why trees are excellent and how to apply for some Grit City trees. Maybe to break the chat ice, you all can, if you're comfortable, share your name or just share what you're looking forward to doing with the rest of your summer. So while you do that, I will just keep on going. Oh, like Ryan said, he's going to be in the chat monitoring for questions. There's a lot of content to kind of get through today. And so as you have questions, please pop them in the chat and Ryan will answer them in real time in the chat. Okay. So before we dive in, I just wanted to take a moment to just pause and acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands of the Puyallup tribe. And my hope for this land acknowledgement is really to honor and pay respects to the Puyallup people and elders, both past and present, who have and continue to tend to the land and care for it, really since time immemorial. There are about 29 tribes who are federally recognized in the state of Washington. And while this map here shows kind of the geographic spread of reservations, this map actually shows a bit of a different perspective, and that's essentially that native land is all around us. And you know, though land acknowledgements are fairly new or recent to some, they've actually been a long-standing Indigenous practice. And I've read that kind of land acknowledgements are kind of twofold. You know, one is recognizing the people and the importance that holds, but also it recognizes the land, right? And that by practicing and listening to a land acknowledgement, kind of this door is opened that invites folks to kind of commit to be a steward of the land, to care for it, to take care of it. And I think this idea really ties in well to, you know, today's topic, which is recognizing why trees are so essential, the need for more trees in Tacoma, and you know, a pathway to do your part in creating a more healthy, robust urban forest in Tacoma, which is applying for some free street trees through the Grit City Trees program. So, excuse me. So like I said, my hope for you all today is that after the webinar, you look at trees a little bit differently, and you might even take that leap and apply for some free street trees. First, we'll kind of define what an urban forest is and skim the surface about some of the benefits that trees, and more importantly, the urban forest offers. We'll learn about the goal and the impact of the Grit City Trees program to date. We'll talk about eligibility for the program and some of the trees that are being offered this year. And then most importantly, we'll walk through some of the important application components today as well. So an urban forest is essentially all the natural and planted vegetation within a city, right? So it's the trees along the streets, it's the parks, open spaces, you know, it can be community gardens and your backyard landscaping, all the way up to the street trees that you see aligning our roadways. That is what the urban forest is. And you might ask yourself, you know, why does the urban forest matter? Well, I would hope that I'm in some good company on this webinar and that the next slide isn't too surprising, but there's been extensive research conducted over 40 years that concludes trees are in fact good. There's this report called Outside Our Doors, we'll drop it in the chat, that essentially synthesizes all of the collection of this research over the 40-year period. And these bullet points are just some of the highlights in that report. But you'll see that their benefits are plentiful that come from, you know, a healthy urban forest. And of course, environmental services that they offer, but also in areas of health, economics, and community. I won't dive into each point too specifically here. I will highlight some things in a moment, but when I'm highlighting those benefits soon, I just want you to keep kind of three things in mind: that trees are good, healthy trees are better, and bigger healthy trees are the best. Okay. So it's probably no surprise, and maybe it is, but I'll just say that, you know, people that live closest to trees receive the most benefits of having them around. And so the same is true when it comes to, you know, your physical and mental health. So trees and green spaces have been shown to positively impact, you know, child development and learning, like improved test scores and increasing attention span. Trees, of course, you know, help keep our neighborhoods cool and mitigate the impacts of the urban heat island. And then lastly, they also lead to better mental health outcomes. The World Health Organization actually stated, it's mentioned in this report, that stress and a lack of physical activity are top two contributors for premature death in developed nations. And with that, more research has shown that residents living in areas with more green space are 3 times more likely to be physically active, and they also help to reduce our stress. I mean, how many of us during lockdown and COVID, sought comfort or went to green spaces, to decompress. So just super critical. There are also impacts to our local economies as well. Studies have shown that in commercial and business districts that have more tree canopy cover, customers are willing to spend up to 12% more on goods and services. A little bit later on in this presentation, we'll learn that trees are not distributed evenly across the city. So while some business districts have good tree canopy cover in the right of way, some business districts have none. And so that has, local economic impacts as well. And then of course, community, more green spaces and trees definitely contribute to stronger, more connected and safer communities. In terms of safety, there was a study that looked at public housing, kind of in relation to infrastructure that supported more green space. And it showed that there was essentially a 56% reduction in violent crimes where buildings had adjacent trees and vegetation. More trees also bring about a traffic calming effect. So having tree-lined streets have actually been shown to reduce crashes by almost 50% and significantly reduces pedestrian fatalities. So trees are great. The last thing I'll say is that trees also play a huge role in connecting people, to their surroundings, cultivating a sense of place and belonging in the community, which, that's immeasurable. And that's my personal opinion though. Okay, I know I'm kind of flying through this kind of quickly, but so we'll just kind of keep those benefits tucked away in our back pocket, and we'll kind of now start to look at Tacoma and our urban forest more specifically our urban tree canopy. But let's define our urban tree canopy. So tree canopy is essentially, if you were to look down onto our city, the city of Tacoma, it would be the land area that is covered by tree crowns, so branches, leaves, things like that. And the average, I want y'all to remember this. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I'm pointing at this bullet point that says average tree canopy cover for US urban areas is about 35%. Okay. Also keep that in your mind when I go to this next slide. The state of Tacoma's urban forests, we have to talk about this because out of all of the urban cities in the Puget Sound region who have had their tree canopies assessed, measured, Tacoma actually has the lowest tree canopy of the Puget Sound region, with 20% right here at the very bottom. Our goal at the city is to increase this tree canopy cover to 30% by 2030, which is a lofty goal, but we can do it, but we have to do it together. What you'll notice within this map is that the trees and the green spaces across Tacoma are distributed unevenly, and that of course has its impacts. So, okay, these are a lot of maps and it's a lot to unpack, but I'll try to do it somewhat succinctly. So let's start with the center map. So in the center, you have our tree canopy map, which highlights, kind of what I just mentioned, that parks and green spaces are unevenly distributed across Tacoma. I want you all to shift your focus to the map on the left, which is Tacoma's Equity Index. And this is a map that essentially identifies and measures certain neighborhood indicators to understand where opportunities exist and who has access to those opportunities. So, for example, in the northern part of Tacoma, this map, for example, may tell us that there are more or higher opportunities for things like accessible transportation, greater median income, and housing value. So that's 3 of the 29 data sets that they have used to create this map. So if you overlay the equity map with the tree canopy cover map, you'll find that the census blocks, that's what the different colored blocks are, it's by census blocks. You'll find that in the higher opportunity areas on the equity index, they actually have 15% more tree canopy cover than census blocks with lower opportunity, which is a huge gap, right? That's essentially our average. So with that, compare those 2 maps with the map on the very right, which is the urban heat island map. And this urban heat island map displays temperature readings that were taken during the heat wave of 2018, July of 2018, I believe. This map showed that those same low opportunity census blocks that had low tree canopy cover were as much as 14 degrees hotter than areas with more tree canopy cover. So essentially, I'm just painting this picture of, this presents very significant health impacts if we continue to kind of develop this urban forest unevenly, right? So what are we going to do about it? Well, the Grit City Trees program is one of the programs, like, we hope distributes more trees to areas with the greatest need, right? So this program aims to grow happy and healthy neighborhoods through community tree planting. Through this program, individuals or neighborhood groups can apply to receive free street trees and other supporting material like tag grow, watering supplies, and things like that, so that they can plant trees in their right of way. This program is available to Tacoma residents, and because of that uneven distribution of trees, this program does prioritize applicants or applications in those lower opportunity census blocks identified by the equity index. That's not, all Tacoma residents are encouraged to apply. We do tend to meet all applicant needs within a program year. We just want to, emphasize that in the event that trees become limited, this type of prioritization will occur. Oh, okay, they're all good slides, but this one's one of my favorites. I want to highlight just the program impact throughout Tacoma since 2016. So each dot essentially represents a tree that was planted in Tacoma through the Grit City Trees program. Okay, so let's watch this together. So that's 2017, 2018, 19, 20, 21. So just in last year's season, we had about a little over 120 applicants. We were able to distribute 323s just last year alone, and about 150 of those trees went to those priority areas with low tree canopy cover. And since, over the span of from 2016 to 2021, we've provided over 1,500 trees to the Tacoma community through this program, which is great. Excellent. Let's keep going, right? So I wanted to talk about the program timeline a bit because we'll just talk about it. So applications opened in July. They'll remain open through August 28 or up until August 28. And during this time, you can be connecting with your neighbors, telling other people about Grit City Trees. You can be planning your planting project, and then applying. Once after the August 28th date in September, our urban forestry staff will start reviewing the applications and approve. We say approve applications, but what we're really looking for is we don't limit you to the amount of trees that you can request. But during this application review process, we'll only approve you for the amount of trees that fit in your right-of-way space. And During this review time in September, if there are still trees available, we'll keep the applications open. It doesn't always happen, which is why we encourage people to try to apply before this August 28th deadline. Then in October and November, the fall, that is when planting season is. So we don't want you to apply for a tree now and then plant now. That tree will have a very hard time getting established. We want you all to plant your trees in the fall. So for individuals that apply on their own, we just ask that, you know, y'all help us out a little bit. Come to our plant holding facility or our nursery and pick up your trees and materials. If you're part of a neighborhood group, though, it's why we incentivize this is if you're part of a neighborhood group, we'll actually deliver all of your trees and all of your materials to one central location, usually the group lead's house. And then in May, we'll reconnect with everyone and distribute watering supplies. So because we want to make sure that these trees that you plant are with you for a very long time. So we want to make sure that we're providing you supplies to sufficiently water your trees throughout the summer season. So that's a program timeline. Now I want to talk about some of the trees that we're going to offer this year. And with a caveat that, you know, all the trees that I'm going to mention here, we do our best to secure these species, but a lot of times some things are just out of our control. For example, some nurseries may lose a tree species due to a heat wave or other factors beyond our immediate control. So yeah, just know that if a tree becomes unavailable, we'll substitute it with something similar, and then we'll let you know if that's the case. So these two trees are what we're calling small trees. So they will fit in planting spaces that are 4 to 5 feet wide. With the Hinoki cypresses, they get about 20-ish feet tall. People like them because they fit in kind of narrow spaces. They're evergreen, which we love because then you have those benefits all year round because that tree is photosynthesizing all year round. They make great like noise barriers. If you live on a busy street, you can plant these in your right of way to buffer some of that noise or even serve as a windbreak. So that's the Hinoki cypress. The Japanese lilac trees, I'm just going to say all these trees are great. I'm just going to call them all my favorites because they're just great. The Japanese lilac, it's in the olive family. I don't know if that's of interest to folks. This tree will get about 25 feet tall. Both of these trees are power line friendly. So if you have overhead power lines, these will be your tree options. They have these really pretty flowers, the lilacs do, that attracts, butterflies, hummingbirds, insects, pollinators. Some people think they have a strong scent, but I think they smell pretty. This tree is very tolerant of urban conditions, like tough urban conditions. So these medium trees or trees that would fit in planting spaces that are at least 6 feet wide. They can fit in bigger spaces, but this is kind of the minimum, 6 to 7 feet wide. We have a couple of different cultivars of southern magnolia that we're going to offer this year. One of the coolest things about this tree is that it's a broadleaf evergreen tree. So this tree will also stay green all year round. These will get about 30-ish to 45-ish feet tall. They have these dark colored leaves and they have this rusty brown underside that I think really complements the green really well. The flowers are big. Sometimes they're almost as big as 8 inches across. And I mean, magnolias are iconic, so. Then we have the northern catalpa tree. Some people call it a cigar tree. It's got a couple of different other common names, but this tree is an ornamental shade tree and it produces you'll see the flowers here. They're kind of in clusters. They have really big, like heart-shaped leaves, which is good in terms of providing shade and, you know, cooling you off. And this specific tree is really tolerant of, you know, different soil types. So could even adapt well in like really compacted soils. And it's got a pretty fast growth rate. So that is the Catalpa. Oh, they also, one unique thing I'll just mention is they have these kind of long seed pods that kind of look like vanilla beans. Okay. The large trees. I'm really excited about all the trees, like I said, these trees in particular. So the pin oak, we're only offering one specific cultivar. So with pin oaks, usually they have kind of scraggly looking like branching structures that overlap, and that's not ideal because when you have branches that overlap, creates like rubbing and weak breaking points essentially, which we don't want. With this cultivar that we're offering this year, they've bred it to have like a stronger canopy structure, so there's not that crisscrossing of branches that happens, so everything's kind of upright. And the fall colors on the pin oak are amazing. And then lastly, our tulip tree, which also has a bunch of different common names. She probably has the most unique flower out of all of them. It's a valuable pollinator for pollinators during the second half of spring, and I hear it makes incredibly tasty honey. So those are the trees, just very briefly. And now I kind of want to shift and walk you through the steps of getting ready to apply and then actually applying, because there's a lot of planning and steps that you have to take in order to prepare to plant this tree in your right of way. So the first thing you'd want to do is, these are the two eligibility requirements, right? You need to be a Tacoma resident, and you need to have eligible right-of-way space. And so the right-of-way is typically the space between the edge of the street or a curb, if you have it, up until your property line, right? A lot of times people will self-select themselves out of this program because they don't have like a noticeable right-of-way with a planting strip, right? But you might still have eligible right-of-way near your property that will allow you to plant these trees. And one of the resources I'm going to show you here in a minute, I'm actually going to click out of this presentation because I want to walk you through the DART map. I believe Ryan will drop the DART map in the chat, the link to it. And okay, let's start. Hold on, just got to click around here. Okay. Hopefully you can see this browser. Wait. Can I get somebody to say they see this window out loud, because I can't see the chat right now?
I can see it.
Okay, great. So this is DART map. What I'll do is I'll actually, because I was in here earlier, let me refresh this so that it takes you to what I see, or what you will see first off, because we want to set up the map in a way that you'll be able to gather the information that you need. So you'll have all these things that kind of pop up right away. You can close out of this, and you can close out of this. And right now we want to set this up where we'll have like a more visual orientation about what's around us. So we'll actually go to these 4 squares here, click that. And then we'll have kind of the satellite image. I'm just going to go to this random corner and talk through how to figure out where your right-of-way is. So let's look at this kind of property here, because it kind of has a sidewalk, but then the other side has no sidewalk or planting strip. So I think that's a good example. You'll go to this kind of this thing right here. You click on it. It's a layers list. You you can essentially check or uncheck things that you don't want to appear on the map. For right now, we want to know where the right of way is, right? So we will click this drop down arrow, right of way legal, and then we'll click this box, right of way. And then I want you to look at this blue line on the screen and notice what happens. So when you click the right of way layer, it's kind of there it goes. It just took a while. So just change from the blue here is the property line, property boundary. But now you see that this pinkish line that popped up around it, that's the edge of the right of way. So any space between the edge of the street and that pink line, your property line, all of that is right of way space. So that space, you can plant trees within that space, of course, according to like spacing guidelines, right? But this area qualifies as right of way space. Okay, so let me just go back to the presentation. So we know where our right of way is now. We know we're a Tacoma resident. Now the next thing that you have to do is decide on your application type. You need to decide if you're just going to apply on your own and be willing to pick up the trees at a later, in October. Or if you want your trees delivered to you, you can rally some neighbors to apply as a neighborhood group. You'll need to establish a group lead. So the house that's going to, pull the trees for everyone and coordinate, people coming and getting their trees and planting them. So you'll have to, oh no, my computer's about to restart. Snooze. Okay. So that's step 2. Step 3 is probably what I would say is the most involved because it deals with gathering a lot of details and just preparing your planting area to be ready to plant trees. So the first thing you'll want to do is measure the width of your right-of-way space and just note if there are any power lines above that planting area, because we will ask you those things on the application. And I can actually, let me show you on this map, like what I mean by width. And we'll talk through these tools too. So you can click on this ruler icon, or wait, okay, yeah, you can see it. This ruler icon. You can select this line. You can pick any color you want. Let's choose orange. Make sure it's in a unit that, you understand. And then you can essentially just drag this line to where you want to measure. So now I know that for this particular right-of-way space is about 11 feet wide. For this space down here, every time you do a line, you'll have to kind of go back and select, yes, I want another line. This space here, and you won't be measuring sidewalks, it's just the plantable right-of-way space. This is about, it was almost 9 feet wide, so we'll just call it 8. So now we have the width of our planting area. The next thing that you'll want to do is request locates for your underground utilities. For many reasons, we don't want you, planting right on top of a water line or a gas line. We don't want you to damage any of your utilities because then you'd have to fix them. We don't want that. You probably don't want that. Let's just locate your utilities. It's also a Washington state law that you have to call 811 and get your utilities located if you're going to be digging. So how you do that is you can call 811, but I recently called and they actually said that if you're not doing an emergency locate request, they want you to actually go through their online portal, which I'll just drop it in the chat. I don't think I gave that link to Ryan. So, excuse me. Locate. Okay, that's in the chat. So you'll go to that link on this website here, and you'll click on submit a ticket right here. I'm going to get out of this window. I did this the other day. I'm going to share, I took screenshots of like the whole process. Let's walk through it. So you'll click on submit a ticket, right? This will essentially just let you know that your utility markings are valid for 45 days, and that the utilities need about 2 business days in order to go out there and mark your utilities before you actually start digging. So give them some time. So after you click that submit a ticket request, you'll be prompted to enter your email address. This is a way to just verify you're a human, I suppose. So you'll go into your email. The email will essentially look like this. Then in the email, we'll have a link to the form that you're going to fill out. So then you'll click on the form. Oops, sorry. Click on the link in the email. This notice will pop up that says, so in Washington state, it's not the same in all states. In Washington states, they actually require that the area you're going to be digging is marked in some way. So in white paint or white pin flags or wooden stakes, they want you to mark where you're going to be digging. So this is just an acknowledgement that you've read that I need to do this. And if you can't, then there's a little bit more coordinating that you have to do, I believe. But then you'll come across, so this is the form that they're going to ask you to fill out. So all of these things are required. As you'll see on this next one, I tried to skip over some things and it wouldn't let me submit. So you'll fill out all of your information, an alternative contact. You're the homeowner or an occupant. It'll ask you for the county that you live in and the city. Then I'll ask you for your house number, like address. And then on the next line, it'll ask you for the street name. And then what I thought was interesting is that this next line, they actually will ask for the nearest cross street. So you'll need all that information. Then they'll ask you to kind of describe what you'll be doing. Why are you making this request? So just tell them you're planting trees in the right of way. They like you to be just very direct with them. You don't need to elaborate too much. And then let them know that, you know, however you're marking your location. Then you're not going to be doing like any directional digging. I kind of don't even know what that means, but I know that you probably won't be doing it. You're just going to be using hand tools, right? A shovel. So you'll have to note what you'll be digging with and that, and when you'll be digging. And then you'll submit the request. You'll get this kind of weird looking map that says, hey, is this the area, the general area? And if it is, just say, yes, it is, and click the green check mark. And essentially what happens then is that this request gets funneled to 811 folks. And if all the information is correct and everything looks good, they'll email you back a ticket number. And that ticket number is what we want on the application. So that's, let me get back to the presentation. So that's the 811 process. Oh no, I have to start. Oh, okay. The last thing is we're going to ask for you to kind of map out where you're going to be planting your trees, right? So we recommend using the dart map just because there are all those measuring and kind of drawing features, but you can, you know, take a picture of your space and just make sure there are like things that can orient me when I'm looking at the application that it's that area. You could use Google Maps and just mark up a Google map, take a screenshot, open it up in Paint, like whatever feels like the most reasonable for you. But I'm going to walk folks through the dart map exercise. So let's go back to the dart map. Okay. So this was my earlier measurements, right? If I'm going to mark this with where I think I'm going to want trees, you'll go to this kind of paint palette tool. That's the draw feature. Oh, Oh, my old drawings got uploaded. Let's just delete those for now. Okay, so you'll select a point here, and then you can kind of pick any kind of symbol. Let's go with this sun. And then you'll essentially click to add a point. That's where I want a tree. If you want to add another point, you'll have to click this plus symbol to add another point. It's a little tedious and not like very intuitive, but that is why we are showing you here. And then you'll just click, I want another tree right here. Great. And you can drop as many, trees as you want to request in your planting plan. Back to the presentation. Okay, so that was the tedious step 3. And then, oh, this is step 3 too. This is actually step 4, my bad. This is now you're ready to actually go through our application and plug in all the information that you've just collected. So now I'll just kind of show you briefly the application page. So you can find the application you can go to our Grit City Trees website. Let's just walk through it so it's clear. Scroll all the way down to this tab that says, how do I participate? And you'll essentially read all the steps that I just described to you. And the real step 4 is applying. So you can hit apply now, and all the information that you read essentially reiterates everything that I just talked about. You'll hit next. This is kind of what the application looks like. Eventually, when you get to the point of entering your planting strip width, this application is set up so that you're not choosing a big tree for a small space, right? So if you have a planting area that's 8 feet or wider, you can select medium trees or large trees. If you have a medium planting area, so 6 to 7 feet wide, let's say, you'll only be shown small trees and medium trees. So you won't ever be shown a tree that's not going to fit appropriately in your space. And if you're going through this process and you need to stop for whatever reason, what's great is that you can hit this save and resume later, and you can get a link to essentially what you have done already at that point. So I think that's pretty cool. So you don't have to do it in one sitting. Okay. Let me back to this presentation. I promise we're almost done. Okay. That's essentially the last step, is applying. And then you'll kind of wait, for the rest of that kind of program timeline to occur. Here, I did want to share, this is kind of an obnoxious slide with a bunch of information, but I think will we share the PowerPoint presentation, Janda, or just the recording?
No, the whole thing will be shared with,
Okay.
as soon as Brian can get it up, and I will let him know it's time sensitive.
Okay, great.
It'll
So
be on
you'll
the
have,
YouTube.
okay, it sounds like you'll have all this information and the recording, this recording as well. So you can, I know I kind of went kind of quickly, but you can, once this webinar is posted, you can, take your time and go as slow as you need in order to get all the information. So the helpful links here it links you to the Grit City Trees webpage. It has my contact information and Ryan's as well. Lately, I've been getting a lot of phone calls, which is great. But what that also means is sometimes my voicemail gets full. And then when people call, they can't leave a message. So if that's the case, just email me and I'll get right back to you. If you need tools, in order to plant the trees that you're going to receive through this program, definitely check out the tool library. And then if you still need more guidance on like how to plant the tree and some aftercare steps, There's tons of resources, again, on our urban forestry webpage. If you click on the sub page called planting and growing, there's tons of stuff on there. And so that should really set you up well. And then the last slide is some EnviroHouse resources. Janda's contact information, just how to stay connected with the EnviroHouse and all the great webinars they're putting on lately. And that's it.
And
So
I'm adding right now, I'm adding the link to the videos when that gets up, and it'll probably take a few days to get up there. So if folks want us to email, first of all, you can, I think most of the sites are in the chat. So you can copy, you can do a control all and copy everything in the chat. If you have a email open or a notepad or Word doc or something, you can copy all those links. If you have problems with that, let us know, myself or Lisa, and we can email that information to you so that you'll have it prior to whenever the webinar gets posted. So, and I put the tool library link in the chat. And I put how to register for upcoming webinars. We are doing, on Saturday morning at 10, we are doing a webinar on pickling, how to pickle cucumbers and vegetables with Helming. And again, I'm putting in when we're open.
Oh, Jana, I think all the things that you're posting are actually just going to me directly.
They are?
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
okay. Okay, I will repost those and just hang on and copy the chat in just a minute, and I will change that to everyone. That's because I sent you a message earlier.
oh,
You were not in presentation mode, so I sent you a note saying so.
oh, whoops. Well, didn't see it.
But you fixed it. You got it. Okay, so there's the tool library. This is me if you need information. This is how to register for upcoming, and we will be doing starting webinars again in September through October. Hope I'm not doing these twice. Okay, and there's how to view whatever is upcoming. And then I will also add one more, that if you don't know this site, for those who are on here, this last one is how to subscribe to the EnviroNews listserv, which is for nonprofits and educators and municipal and government agencies and so on, to post information on events, activities, job postings, all kinds of information on there. And that's where I put a lot of my workshop information. So that's how you can sign up for that listserv if you're interested in that. So I think that covers all of our information. Oh, and I was also going to put in, because this is a good partner of our city program, the Tacoma Tree Foundation. And then I will repeat so you don't have to go all the way back up to the top. This is Lisa and Ryan again. So we'll give you a minute before I close this. If you want to copy that chat, and again, if you have problems with that, let us know. If you have any questions for Lisa or Ryan or myself, we're kind of running out of time, so I don't want to hold everybody up. But please send us your questions, either email or I don't know, I think my phone number is in there up at the top. So.
Janda, will folks that are on this webinar be emailed all of this information? We had, Shannon was asking if we could just email her maybe links.
Okay, that must have gone to you directly. I didn't see that. Yes, I can email all of this is just on one page that I have. It's not in the same order, but
Okay.
they're all on one page. So I can email this to the participants, those who have been in, and then the people that go back later and watch the recorded version will see it all online.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by and learning a little bit about our urban forest and how to get some Grit City trees.
And be sure to apply.
Yeah, and apply.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I am going to end our webinar. We're getting some kudos here. So thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Everyone.